It's a walk I try to take every day, rain or shine, summer or winter, for richer or poorer. I consider it a trip down memory lane as much as anything else. It begins on top of Bradley Hill, almost where the old scenic turnout used to be. They say people came from miles around to park and enjoy the view of Pemaquid Harbor, leading out to Johns Bay and beyond. Across the road, that's where my great aunt Hannah Bradley lived. She was a widow and was deathly afraid of thunderstorms. Whenever the skies darkened, she would scurry across the field in her nightdress and black rubber boots. Clutching a small wooden box that contained everything she held dear, she was on her way to the safety of her brother's house, my grandfather, Lawrence Miller. He drove a taxi and had a little store. Gas pumps in front, penny candy lining the counter, and a bit of bootleg whiskey in the back, left over from the Prohibition days. The beaten path I follow traces my mother's footsteps, the ones she took to school as a little girl. The old road leading to Pemaquid Falls really was uphill both ways. Over there, that's where Earl Feltus's house once stood. It is one of my earliest recollections. I could have been 4, maybe 5 years old, and for no good reason decided to wander away from home. I got as far as Earl's house before his wife May lured me inside with the promise of a molasses cookie. Waving me over to his chair, Earl shook my hand upon arrival. He wore overalls and worked at the old lumber mill. He smelled a little of sweat and a lot like the sweetness of a fresh-cut pine board. Putting me on his knee, he pulled out an old pocket watch and placed it in my hands. I played with it, opening and closing the cover, until my mother arrived at the door in search of her son. Having no idea of the trouble I was in, I ran to show her the watch and tell her all about the cookie. As I continued my walk on by the high school and the library that was once a church, I could see down to the river where I would help my father and uncles fish for alewives. We would come back later in the evening and sit in the moonlight along the river bank. I was captivated, listening to their stories and the flipping of fish being caught in the nets. Arriving at the turning point of my walk, I couldn't help but stop at the bridge and watch the stream make its way out to the sea. For generations we've called this place home. It has been our livelihood, our playground, our mentor, our friend. It lifted me up when I was down and cut me down to size on those days I've thought too much of myself. It taught me about life and consoled me when I needed to learn about death. Dad always said, "Take care of the ocean and it will take care of you." I think that must go for rivers and the land we occupy as well. Looking out from the bridge, the closed forever sign looms big on the door of Hammond Lumber, where Pool Brothers used to be. Saddened by the thought of its passing, I wonder if this is the final chapter for this old mill. Or maybe, just maybe, with a little help, those weather-beaten walls will find a way to survive and have a few more stories left to tell. Crossing the road, I set my course back home to Bradley Hill, being sure to wave to each car that passes by.